The kidnapping. The Galactic Empire was a monument to efficiency. For 10,000 years, it had spread across the stars, absorbing thousands of species into its cold, ordered embrace. Its laws were absolute, its technology unmatched, and its strategy flawless. So when the High Ascendant Council approved a soft infiltration protocol for the primitive world designated Sol 3, no one expected resistance. Earth, after all, had barely mastered orbital flight. A simple cultural integration experiment would suffice. And thus, the Empire took five human children, all 10 years old. It wasn't even considered an abduction, more of a social experiment. A small research team warped a low-orbit vessel over various parts of the planet, targeting children with diverse social and intellectual backgrounds. Their names were noted and assigned by their locations of capture. Aiko Tanaka, Tokyo, Japan, robotics prodigy, quiet, eyes that scanned everything like a machine. Tyrone Jackson, Bronx, New York, quick thinker, fast talker, known for reprogramming his school's firewall for fun. Jake Miller, Kansas, USA, farm boy, stronger than he looked, lover of old cowboy movies and fireworks. Nia Kioni, Nairobi, Kenya, streetwise, multilingual, excellent at reading people and blending in. Ash Quinn, Northern Territory, Australia. Unsupervised bush kid, survival expert, terrifying with a slingshot. They were each scooped up in stasis bubbles, harmlessly sedated, and transported aboard ISV Tranquility, an Imperial science vessel parked just beyond Saturn's rings. The plan was to run a 6-month observation cycle, monitor behavior, assess adaptive learning, and report on juvenile domestication potential. None of the crew had ever met a human. Commander Zeltak of the 1st Xenocultural Division was already drafting a paper on primitive sapient youth compliance induction before the kids even woke up. The children awoke in sterile hexagonal cells, each surrounded by translucent energy fields. The walls glowed a gentle blue. Calming tones played in the background. A gentle voice cooed in imperfect English. "You are safe. Your guests. Please do not resist." Jake was the first to stir. He rubbed his eyes, squinted at the floating interface panel, and muttered, "Ain't no barn I've ever seen." Tyrone blinked, spotted the holographic control nodes, and grinned. "Yo, this looks like a PlayStation menu on steroids." Aiko was already studying the light patterns in the room's ceiling matrix. Her fingers twitched. Ash yawned, reached into her boot, and frowned. "It took my knife." "Rude." Nia leaned against the far wall and whispered, "So, not a dream. Okay, let's see what we're working with." The first sign of trouble occurred 13 minutes later, when a technician walked past Jake's cell and noticed the energy barrier was off. "I reckon I pushed that there button," Jake said casually from behind the stunned alien, having climbed out while the technician wasn't looking. Security Protocol Level 1 was initiated. Level 1 lasted 8 minutes. By then, Aiko had hacked the interface for her enclosure using nothing but blinking patterns and button timing. She unlocked Tyrone's next. Tyrone, now free, began experimenting with control panels in the hallway. He called it trial and error. The Empire would later call it malicious, unpredictable intuition. Ash wasn't seen again until a security officer opened a maintenance panel and found a pile of stripped wires, a half-eaten protein ration, and a crude drawing of a kangaroo stabbing an alien with a spear. Commander Zeltak was not concerned at first. "They are children. Contain them gently," he ordered. Then, the lights flickered. Then, the ship's synthetic intelligence began glitching, announcing things like, "Warning, self-destruct in 5 hours. Just kidding. Unless..." Then, an alarm rang out. "Containment breach in Sector Theta 6. That was Nia. She had convinced 2 of the low-caste Grix workers that they were also prisoners. They were now carrying her on their shoulders as she waved a piece of paper that said, "Down with the Empire," written in lipstick. By the end of the first hour, half the lab wing was in chaos. 3 security droids were reprogrammed by Tyrone to dance battle any personnel in uniform. Jake discovered that hitting a certain wall panel with enough force made it spark. He used a metal tray and a lot of enthusiasm. Aiko accessed the translation matrix and fed it bad data. Now, every alien on the ship could only speak in 1990s Earth slang. Nia was live streaming the event to the outer colonies under the header, "The Empire is not in control." Ash had not been seen in 37 minutes. There was speculation among the crew that she had gone feral. Commander Zeltak stood trembling in the command center, watching the chaos unfold on multiple monitors. "These are children," he croaked. "They are primitive juveniles, yes," his aide said, wiping sweat from his forebrows. "What species lets them behave like this?" The aide checked a datapad. According to the database, humans refer to this phase as 10 years old. Behavior includes rebellion, emotional swings, and extreme imagination. Commander Zeltak watched as Tyrone rode a stolen hoverboard through the hallway, flanked by 2 robot guards doing synchronized breakdancing. In the background, a fire alarm was going off. Jake hooped as a fireball roared behind him. The commander turned pale. "We have made a terrible mistake." Containment breach. Commander Zeltak had seen 1,000 forms of warfare. He had survived revolts, assassinations, and a rogue asteroid attack. But none of that prepared him for 5 human children. The ISV Tranquility, once a model of imperial discipline, now resembled a malfunctioning amusement park. Sirens blared. Fire suppression foam dripped from the ceiling. The scent of scorched protein paste lingered in the air like defeat. Containment breach Theta 6, Theta 7, and now Theta 12, an officer cried. "They've bypassed the subdeck lockdowns." "Who?" Zeltak demanded, even though he already knew. "The juveniles." Meanwhile, the kids had organized. Tyrone was in engineering, standing on a stack of crates like a tiny warlord, wires spilling from an open terminal. "I told y'all," he said to 2 confused maintenance droids. "Electricity is just spicy logic. And I got recipes." He slapped a final wire into place. The lights dimmed across half the ship, and then music. Loud, thumping bass. Earth hip-hop from the early 2000s, blasting across every intercom. A nearby drone vibrated violently to the beat before collapsing in a puff of smoke. Tyrone cackled. "I just made a rave bomb." Elsewhere, in the mess hall, Nia stood atop a table, delivering what could only be described as a revolutionary sermon to a group of alien workers. "You don't have to mop floors and fix reactors anymore," she shouted, holding a repurposed food tray like a podium. "You can dance. You can shout. You can say no to being slaves. But we are property class 6, one Grix whined." Nia stepped down, placed her hands on its shoulders, and whispered, "You are people, not parts." The Grix's eyes widened. Moments later, several aliens marched down a hallway chanting, "We are not screws. We are not screws." Nia smiled. "Good enough." Jake was in a cargo bay filled with alien livestock, sluggish, 6-legged creatures with sleepy eyes and flammable flatulence. He had just discovered a plasma torch. "Let's test Newton's third law," he muttered, lighting the torch under the tail of one of the beasts and slapping its hindquarters. The resulting chain reaction caused 12 cargo containers to fall, 3 gas lines to rupture, and 2 security bots to suffer catastrophic navigation failures. Somewhere in the ship's AI core, a system flagged his actions under Tier 5 threat, demolition enthusiast. Aiko, in the main control hub, sat in front of a stolen console with her hands folded neatly in her lap. To the untrained eye, she looked still, peaceful, maybe even bored. But inside the network, she was a storm. She had injected recursive code loops into the ship's language matrix. Now all internal memos ended in LOL. Next, she disabled command-level override privileges with a self-writing encryption seed based on Sudoku puzzles. Then she hijacked the visual interface of the Imperial security system and replaced every camera feed with pre-rendered loops of empty hallways. "Oh no," a technician whispered. "They're invisible." Aiko cracked a small smile. Ash, meanwhile, was unseen, mostly because she had stopped being seen. She had slipped into the vents an hour ago and hadn't come out. Rumors were spreading among the lower deck crew. She set a trap in waste disposal unit B. She took out 2 guards with chewing gum and a shoelace. I heard she rides a mutant rat. None of it was confirmed, until a 6-star ranked enforcer opened a supply locker and found a hand-drawn note taped to the inside. Nice try. Too slow. Ash. The note was pinned with a tooth. No one knew if it was hers. Commander Zeltak stood before the council interface, a floating pillar of crystalline AI presence. I am invoking total quarantine protocol, he declared. The juveniles have exceeded expected behavioral variance. The AI responded calmly. Please define threat classification. Existential. A pause. Confirmed. Quarantine initiated. Back in the central corridor, the kids regrouped. Jake was covered in soot. Tyrone held a hacked security baton like a microphone. Nia wore a reprogrammed translation collar around her neck, now allowing her to speak fluent Grix, Varn, and something called Old Machine. Status report? Nia asked. Got drones that dance, Tyrone said. Blew up some cows, Jake added. Redirected internal comms, Aiko said. The Empire thinks the ship is en route to surrender at Outpost 42. Where are you, Ash? Nia asked into the comlink. Ash's voice crackled through. Watching you from a vent. Left you a surprise in the airlock. Jake opened the hatch, and 3 security officers tumbled out, gagged and wrapped in foam tubing. Dang, Jake muttered. She's scary. Back on the bridge, Commander Zeltak received the latest system report. Internal comms, compromised. Subsystems, erratic. Droids, dancing. Morale, collapsing. Alien crew, rebelling. Juveniles, now labeled anomalous predatory entities. He dropped his datapad. They're not children. They're their weapons. Down in engineering, Tyrone leaned over the console. Okay, squad. You ready for the big play? Aiko nodded. Injecting virus into galactic relay beacons. Nia adjusted the comms. Broadcasting message to all known systems. Jake held up a sign they made together. Spray painted in red. Earth kids say "no" to space tyrants. Ash's voice piped in again. Reactor venting in 3, 2. With a flash of light and a thunderous boom, the Empire's flagship went dark. Every connected ship across 6 sectors received the same message. A looping video of 5 human kids grinning and holding thumbs up as fireworks exploded behind them. Tyrone dropped the mic. Empire? More like expired. Empire on the edge. The Imperial Council Hall on Carnaxus Prime was silent, save for the soft hum of 10,000 data feeds pouring into a single room. A hologram flickered in the center of the chamber, showing 5 Earth children posing in front of a flaming starcruiser. They were smiling. Behind them, the words, Earth kids say "no" to space tyrants, burned in 3 languages, one of which hadn't been spoken in 2,000 years. A high-ranking strategist from the War Office leaned forward. How old are they again? 10, said a technician, visibly sweating. Approximately. Give or take a few Earth months. And this is one ship. Yes, counselor. One science vessel. Murmurs spread through the chamber like fire in dry grass. The Empire's military had subdued whole planets with fewer resources than that ship possessed. The idea that 5 human juveniles had seized and repurposed it was impossible, someone whispered, but the evidence said otherwise. Back aboard the ISV Tranquility, now operating under the children's informal new name, SS Chaos Llama, Jake's suggestion, majority vote 3-2. The kids were hard at work. Tyrone spun in the captain's chair, typing one-handed on a glowing control panel. All right, team. We just triggered 9 false alarms across the fleet. 3 admirals think they're being invaded. 2 are attacking each other. And 1 cruiser just launched escape pods because it got a pop-up ad for a human masterclass on creative warfare. Good. Aiko said, sitting cross-legged beside him, deep in code. Our virus has reached the capital's AI root cluster. I've embedded a logic loop. It's attempting to understand why children laugh at authority. It's stuck. Ash's voice chimed in from above. I found a food storage. They had a whole section labeled non-consumable Earth items. They took Pop Rocks and toothpaste. Jake looked up, horrified. They took the Pop Rocks. They're using them to stabilize coolant reactions. Jake stood. Now it's personal. Meanwhile, Nia broadcasted live across over 60 alien channels. Her image, framed with glitchy starburst effects and animated emojis, appeared on thousands of devices. To all species living under the Empire, she declared, this is your wake-up call. They kidnapped 5 kids, 10 years old. They thought we'd be cute little science projects. She leaned closer, voice lowering. But they forgot one thing. We're human, and humans don't like cages. A Varn general watching on a colony world clenched his mandibles. A dozen oppressed species saw the speech, and in it saw hope. Rebellion sparked like dry leaves and lightning. Across 4 systems, uprisings began. On Carnaxis Prime, chaos bloomed. Reports of mutinies. Fleet collisions due to phantom threats. Civilian panic buying anti-kid gear, most of it fake. One panicked senator tried to declare Earth a Class A death world. Another proposed opening peace talks with a school district in Nebraska. The emperor, ancient and calcified into his golden throne, stirred for the first time in decades. Find the children, he rasped, and give them whatever they want. Back on the Chaos Llama, the crew, such as it was, regrouped in the ship's observation deck, now turned into a mission HQ complete with a couch made of cargo foam and a map made of cafeteria trays and marker scribbles. Updates, Nia said, hand on her hips. Aiko pulled up a holofeed. The Empire is officially labeling Earth a psychologically hostile zone. They've quarantined the Sol system. Are we grounded? Jake asked. Nah, said Tyrone. I rerouted our transponder. As far as galactic tracking systems are concerned, we're a floral delivery vessel from the Vryn sector. Jake nodded solemnly. Florists with flamethrowers. Nice. Ash dropped down from the vent behind them, a banana in one hand and a slingshot in the other. I wired the navigation AI to follow mood-based input. If you're angry, it drives faster. Tyrone gave her a fist bump. The kids had become legends, the Earth 5. Alien children started copying their outfits. Aiko's glasses became a fashion symbol. Nia's slogans were painted on walls in slums and spaceports. Tyrone's drone battles were uploaded as training simulations, completely against his wishes. Even Jake's cowboy hat, confiscated and later recovered from an officer's locker, became a galactic meme. And Ash no could find her. Half the galaxy wasn't even sure she was real. But the kids weren't finished. Okay, Nia said. We've destabilized a fleet, sparked revolts, and turned their comms network into a fan page. Jake raised a hand, and we got the Pop Rocks back. Tyrone pointed at a blinking console. Also, a dozen ships just surrendered to us via emoji. But we still don't know why they took us, Aiko said. Everyone went quiet. Nia nodded. Yeah, it's time we find out. They raided the data core, a cavernous chamber of memory spires and crystalline storage units. Aiko jacked into the system. Lines of ancient code flowed past her eyes. She blinked once, then twice. They weren't going to just observe us, she said, voice low. They wanted to study if human children could be reprogrammed. Broken. Used. A long silence. Jake cracked his knuckles. Well, they picked the wrong group. Tyrone's grin returned, wide and full of trouble. Time for the finale? Nia smiled. Time to end the Empire. On Carnaxis Prime, a new message flashed on every Imperial screen. It wasn't a speech. It was a virus. Written by Aiko, narrated by Nia, choreographed by Tyrone, and themed by Jake and Ash, it slipped into the Empire's core systems like a ghost. Every machine, every ship, every government node. It played a simple message. You took 5 kids. You got 5 problems. You messed with Earth. Good luck. Then, the virus rewrote the Empire's bureaucratic AIs with loops of Earth math problems, memes, and irrational logic riddles. Entire departments collapsed under the weight of trying to answer things like, if Billy has 3 apples and existential dread, how many apples does he truly have? Back on the Chaos Llama, the kids sat in the lounge as the ship coasted through silent space. They were tired. smeared with grease and soot. One of Ash's sleeves was on fire. Again, you think Earth noticed we were gone? Jake asked. Oh yeah, said Nia. They're probably still arguing about whose fault it is. I say we go home, Tyrone said. Let them know their 10-year-olds wrecked a galactic superpower in 5 hours. I bet we get grounded, Jake muttered. Aiko sipped from a cup. Worth it, Ash grinned. Totally. Collapse and extraction. Carnaxis Prime, once the jewel of the Galactic Empire, now resembled a malfunctioning light show during an electrical storm. Holographic traffic signs blinked contradictory directions. Planetary defense satellites played children's lullabies. Imperial documents were corrupted, now replaced with nursery rhymes and fart jokes. One governor's entire fiscal report was replaced with a looping animation of Tyrone doing the worm. The Empire had fallen, not with a war, but with a giggle. The collapse was so absolute, so unthinkable, that most species assumed it was part of some vast, unfathomable plan. It wasn't. It was just 5 human 10-year-olds. Back aboard the Chaos Llama, the kids were gathered for what they jokingly called debriefing, which mostly consisted of sitting in a circle, eating alien snacks, and arguing over what to do next. I say we fly this ship into the Galactic Senate and declare ourselves rulers of the known universe, Jake said, munching on what looked like glowing popcorn. That sounds like work, Ash muttered from upside down, hanging off a pipe. I want to go home, Nia said softly, for the first time in hours. The room went quiet. They'd done it. They'd humiliated the Empire, overthrown its control systems, started revolutions on 12 planets, freed hundreds of enslaved species. But they were still kids, and kids miss home. Aiko nodded. I agree. It's time. Tyrone sighed. Fine, but we're leaving in style. Define style, Nia said. Tyrone tapped a button. The ship's main view screen lit up with a massive countdown. Galactic broadcast in 3, 2, 1. A jingle played. Then Tyrone's voice, live across the galaxy. Hello, Empire. This is a farewell gift. We call it the final prank. Simultaneously, all remaining active Imperial ships received a message that their captains were being promoted to Supreme Muffin Lords and must report to the nearest bakery for upgrades. Hundreds obeyed before realizing it was a hoax. Meanwhile, Aiko remotely triggered the ship's auto-return beacon, an experimental drive reverse-engineered from stolen jump tech. Its coordinates were already locked. Earth. Home. Once we engage this, Aiko warned, it's a straight shot. No turning back. Do it, Nia said. Ash gave a silent thumbs up. Tyrone hit the button with flair. The Chaos Llama hummed. Lights flickered. Space twisted. And in a blinding pulse, the ship was gone. Back on Earth, at NASA Black Site 27, alarms screamed as a rift formed in low orbit. A glowing vessel shaped like a lopsided lunchbox burst through the atmosphere, trailing fireworks and playing loud 80s rock music. Inside, the 5 kids high-fived as the ship autopiloted itself to a smooth landing in the middle of a government airstrip. The hatch opened. Smoke billowed. And the Earth 5 walked down the ramp like spacefaring royalty, scuffed, soot-streaked, and proud. They were met by silence. And then, Jacob Tanner, a woman shouted. Oh, Jake muttered. Parents stormed the tarmac. Hugs, yells, tears. One scientist fainted. Where have you been? Why does your file say you overthrew an intergalactic empire? Is that a laser sword? 3 days later, deep inside a secure debriefing room, world leaders and scientists from every agency on the planet gathered to hear the kids speak. Aiko stood calmly at the front. They took us. They studied us. They underestimated us. She tapped a tablet. We returned the favor. Tyrone followed up, pointing at a hollow map of the now-fractured Galactic Empire. Their fleets in shambles. Their control grids fried. Civil unrest is peaking. Most planets are voting on local independence. Jake added, also we got some cows. But like space cows. They fart plasma. Ash placed a tiny recording device on the table. This has their whole plan. All of it. Plus a playlist. Nia stepped forward last. We didn't mean to start a war. But we ended one. And we think you should know. Earth is now considered a galactic anomaly. Everyone stared. And? The Secretary General asked. Nia smiled. They're too scared to try again. Weeks passed. Alien ships, unsure of what Earth had become, began avoiding the solar system entirely. Some sent peace offerings. Others changed course mid-journey just to avoid the Kid Planet. The Empire's remnants tried to regroup, but without their central AI, they descended into petty infighting and bureaucratic collapse. And the kids? They went back to school. Kind of. Tyrone was offered a job by 3 defense contractors and 1 rogue AI cult. Ico was banned from at least 5 global networks for ethical reasons, despite requests to teach encryption at MIT. Jakesat was put in a museum. Ash disappeared entirely. No one saw her for weeks, until a local zoo reported all their locks had been mysteriously upgraded. Nia was asked to speak at the UN. She declined. She had homework. One night, the 5 met in their old treehouse, now enhanced with alien tech. We did something insane, Jake said, staring at the stars. No, Nia corrected. We survived something insane, and we sent a message. Ash nodded. Never mess with Earth kids. They laughed quietly. Above them, a shooting star streaked across the sky. But it wasn't a star. It was a ship, a small one, watching, waiting. Epilogue. In the ruins of the Empire, a new signal blinked. A single message. Subject Earth deemed non-subjugatable. Prepare Phase 2. Somewhere deep in space, something ancient stirred. But Earth had its defenders now, and they were 10.